This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
I'll cut with the usual baloney introduction and just say everything you're about to hear is 100% true. Warning, today's episode contains explicit content, not intended for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. In other words, make sure the kiddies are out of the room. So you're going to say, what's so explicit about accident management? Shouldn't be that explicit, right? Well, about 10 years ago, we had a guy text message me a picture of a coworker's torso from the nipples to the knees. And there was this horrible rash and everything. It looked horrible. And his coworker says, look, the product that we're using to paint is causing this rash. I have multiple chemical sensitivity now. I've developed an allergy to this material. My body is sensitive and everything else. And now you're responsible. So what does he do? He calls me up and text messages me on a Saturday morning. He has a different phone number, so I don't know who this is. And I'm like, who the hell is sending this stuff to me, right? It's ridiculous. And he says, Jimmy, this guy, the paint, he's screaming and yelling. He can't calm down. I said, well, first of all, calm down. Second of all, what you really need to do is we're going to go and call up our medical consultant, aka company doctor. We have to have this evaluated because this guy is going to claim disability probably if this doesn't resolve, or this could go any number of ways and go sideways. So Monday morning comes, this was a Saturday, Monday morning comes, we go and we get him in contact with the company doctor, the aka medical consultant. We start using our standardized procedures for managing these things where it needs to be medically documented. We get it medically documented, and lo and behold, around 3 days later, we hear back from our dermatologist, and I get a phone call, and everybody is giggling on the other on the other side of the phone. I said, boy, this is going to be good, isn't it? And they said, oh yeah, Jimmy, you're going to love this one. I said, okay, well, what's the diagnosis? What's the prognosis? The diagnosis is that it is a sexually transmitted disease. I said, okay. Exactly. I said, are you certain this is what it is? Oh, yeah, this is what it is. And I said, well, he's in a dirty environment or anything. Could this be from the ambient environment? They said, possibly, but not likely because the man has a certain history that he admitted to the doctor and everything else, and this is it. This complicates matters. So what's the moral of the story? Moral of the story is this. A couple of takeaways. Number one is you have to manage accidents properly. You got to go to the doctor. You have to go to through the proper channels. Don't ever accept someone's word on things, especially with some job sites, some companies where they hire folks that may or may not be of the most reputable thing, right? They may not be very reputable people. They may be working at places that don't require a background check, things of that nature. They're people who don't follow up on things, that don't research who they're hiring or anything else. Number one, all right? So you go through all of the steps, right? Get it medically evaluated, get it documented. What it turns out was this man was allegedly having an affair on his wife and came down with this STD, and he was looking for a way to explain to his wife what happened. And he figured if he could blame it on the company, and not his own behavior when he was away from home. He was away from home 2-3 months at a clip. If he could explain it, had some type of explanation, he could then get away from his wife, be happy with her and everything else. As it turns out, about 2 or 3 weeks later, he ended up quitting the job and ended up getting a divorce over this whole situation. But we would have, had we not followed the procedure, we would have been pegged with a workers' comp situation and everything else with this. So make sure you have competent people that you're working with. Make sure you follow procedure. Don't take anyone's words for anything. For all I know, you may be in a situation where someone, it might be a little bit different, or maybe a chemical sensitivity or an allergy developed at work to a material. You got to document these things with this, and then you're on the hook for it. But in this case, this is the way it worked out, neither good nor bad. So this leads into another topic: sexual harassment, keeping medical stuff confidential. The foreman who reported this, and the supervisor is what he essentially was, he did not keep this confidential. He yucked it up and everything else with everybody else, and put him and the company in a real serious situation. Even if this was, by some out there thing, a OSHA recordable or something, if it was something slightly different, guess what? Now you have a situation, because now you release medical data. Now the employer may or may not be covered under HIPAA. We all know how that goes for safety professionals. But they made for a very awkward situation, and made for a very awkward situation outside of work and everything else. So, gotta be careful. Keep this medical stuff private. For Safety Wars, this is Jim Posel.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.